Well, we have an incredible guest on the
Yes.
show, and he does so many things. It's hard to explain because he does a lot of different things. Great guitarist. He's a singer,
Songwriter,
songwriter, entertainer,
actor.
actor,
Yes.
and iconic television star. He's done it all, and he's
Yes.
still doing it all.
That's right.
We've got Jon Walmsley with us on Swanky Southern Nights. How are you, John?
Great, great. How are you both?
We're
Very
doing
well.
great.
Thrilled to have you on.
We are. We really are.
Nice to be here.
Hey, hey, John. I'd mentioned off mic before we started here. I've got a little story that I'm sure you will not remember, but it's raining here today, and the day reminds me of something that happened years ago. So I was a session singer for years on Music Row and a songwriter on Music Row, and I was in a studio. And you don't have to remember this. I'm sure you won't. But I was in a studio recording demos one day, and I had just wrapped up, and there was a knock on the door of the studio, and it was you, and it was pouring down. It was pouring down rain, and
Probably
you
looking for
said
the toilet.
how? What is that?
I was
What?
probably looking for the toilet.
You might have been. Well, you said it's pouring down rain, and I don't remember if you came in and visited for a minute or not, but you said it's pouring down rain, and I've got to get to another studio over here, like a couple of blocks away, and I gave you a lift, and I got to meet you for the first time back then. That was in the '90s. In the heyday
Yes,
of country music, of
I
course.
love
But
that.
yes, yes.
that sounds familiar. That
Well, it
sounds
doesn't
familiar.
have to. But I sure remember it because I grew up being a big Waltons fan, and there you were right there. I said, my goodness, only on Music Row would this happen, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. So,
When you were working on Music Row, I mean, you got to work with some of the best, Pete Drake, Pig Robbins, Bob Moore on bass. I mean, some incredible players during your time on Music Row, correct?
it was unbelievable. And, I think they still do things pretty quickly in the studio in Nashville.
Mhm.
That's sort of what everybody hears about working in the Nashville studios. But I was blown away because I was used to working in California and I'd never seen anything like it. The
Mhm.
Beach Boys worked, I think, 4 months on Good Vibrations.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not like that in Nashville.
No,
We
no.
we walked in, everybody was set up. I met all the guys, and we launched into the songs. I think I played it down for them once, and then
Yeah.
we recorded them, and it was
Wrote the
done.
Nashville numbers.
Background,
Yeah.
yeah, the background vocals went on right then. I played my guitar solo,
Yeah.
in between singing the verses, and it was finished. And
Yeah.
I have to say, and I've got those recordings somewhere.
Hmm.
Hmm.
It was the old, like 1960s Nashville sound. I mean, the
Yes.
tracks it could have been a Patsy Cline session or something.
Yes.
Oh.
It sounds unbelievable.
Yes. Yes. Well, the that era of music, then, like you said, the Nashville sound era, which that's a staple of our brand that we do here called the Swanky South. The Nashville sound era is sort of the cornerstone of that, and there was a magical time in Nashville during that time, and those guys that you got to record with were some of the masters. I mean,
Yeah.
that really created that music. That's an awesome
Yeah,
experience.
absolutely. And I feel so fortunate that, I came in, I guess, sort of the tail end of that,
Yeah.
probably. And also, my very first time to Nashville, which led me into this recording experience with Pete Grant. Pete Drake, sorry. Pete Grant is another fine steel guitarist.
Mm.
I've made that mistake
Yes.
before. With Pete Drake,
Yeah.
was appearing on the Opry in
Hmm.
19. I mean, that's unbelievable. My
That's
first time in
awesome.
town as a guest on the Opry, and I was 19 then.
It's
Yes.
wonderful.
And that was amazing. But the lineup, this was 1975.
Hmm.
So they've
Yeah.
been at Opryland for
Yeah.
about a year. And
Yes.
unfortunately, I've never had a chance to play at the Ryman, which would be fantastic. But
Mm.
Yes.
Opryland was new. It's beautiful. I'm sure it still is. the lineup: Roy Acuff, Minnie Pearl, Hank Snow, Grandpa Jones, Marty Robbins. It's
Yes. Yes.
unbelievable.
Yes.
Just unbelievable.
Yes.
So huge thrill for me.
Mm-hmm.
And the capper is, I'm going to do it again.
Full
Yes,
circle. Love that.
yes.
How about that? 51 years later, and I just turned 70. So I did it at 19.
Nice. Yeah.
I'm doing it at 70. This will be 23rd of May.
May 23rd. Yes. Yes. And
do
the
that.
night before that, you'll be in Franklin, Tennessee, at the beautiful Franklin Theater, just up the road from us. And that's
Thank you
a
for
great
mentioning that.
spot as well. Yes.
I have always loved the Franklin Theater.
Mm-hmm.
And back at the time you were mentioning, in the 90s, the Franklin
Yes.
Theater was there, but
Yeah.
it was just a cinema. They were showing films.
And they had round tables. I lived in Franklin. I used to walk there when that was going on. They had round tables. You could order pizza and beer and watch a movie at these little round tables at the cinema. Yeah. But they've done a beautiful renovation there, and it's a beautiful concert hall now. And folks, you need to go see Jon Walmsley there. It's going to be now. Are you going to have your full band there?
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome.
There'll be 4 pieces.
Yes.
So,
Great.
I'll be doing what I do, which is blues, a lot of blues and
Yes.
R&B and Americana roots music, and
Yes.
originals mixed in with favorites.
Yeah, awesome. Now, will you be doing some songs? Now, you've got a project that you did a few years ago called "Going to Clarksdale."
Yes.
Will there be songs from that project that might be on there as well on the show?
Absolutely. Going to Clarksdale. Oddly, I recorded that in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
And oddly, I say oddly because it was my first ever album project under my own name.
Yeah.
I played with all these other people, done all this stuff, but I never put out a Jon Walmsley CD. So here it was. My wife and I had taken a wonderful road trip to the Mississippi Delta.
Yeah.
And we drove up and down the Mississippi. And there's something called the Blues Trail there. And there's an app that you can download to your phone. And wherever you go, it tells you something about where you are. And, whether Muddy Waters lived there or Robert Johnson lived there.
Right.
Or, all these, Johnny Winter lived there. All these things.
Yeah.
And there's all sorts of places you can stop and visit. I mean, cemeteries, churches, all kinds of places. And we ended up going to the B.B. King Museum in Indianola, which is quite new then, which is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's also a BMI, is it a BMI museum there? I think it is.
Okay.
Anyway, there were a couple of museums there, and they're just fabulous. And we went to, Parchment Farm, stuff like that.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
this is music that I grew up listening to. I mean, for me, initially, it was the Beatles and Chet Atkins.
There you go.
Those were my early inspirations.
Yeah.
So there was sort of, a pop influence and a country influence from the beginning. And I didn't, I never sort of categorized music, and I still don't like to. When people ask me what kind of music I like, I say, good music.
Right. Yes. Yes.
I'll listen to opera. I mean, the other morning I listened to Ravi Shankar playing some morning ragas on the sitar. And it was beautiful. I thought, I get this. I see why they call this a morning raga, because it started really gently and it built up and it got really lively. And by the end of it, I was awake and ready to go. So it makes sense. But, I used to watch and I listened to your program with Jim Messina, who I love. And he's a wonderful guy. And I got to know him
He is.
a little bit when I was touring with Richard Marx. And at one point, Poco, the reformed Poco, were opening for Richard, which I thought, this is unbelievable. They had the same managers. That's how they came about.
Gotcha.
And I thought, this is great. So, and it was all the original guys, Rusty Young and Richie Furay and Jim Messina, and just amazing. So I got to know Jim a little bit, and one of the things, and he mentioned it on your show, that he watched Cal's Corral, which
Yes.
was a local show in LA, hosted by a car dealer, Cal Worthington.
Yeah.
And wouldn't you know, Cal's Corral was my very first audition for a professional gig. And I was
Is that
9
right?
years old.
That's cool.
And they would hold the auditions at this club
Yeah.
in a place called Signal Hill, which is part of Long Beach, California. And that's where my family lived at the time. So my parents took me to this nightclub, this country nightclub called the Foothill Club. And it's where, Johnny Cash would play on tour and things like that. That's where they held the auditions. And I went in. My dad had filled out an entry card, right? You had to fill in who you were and what you did.
Yeah.
And then they would call your name up to the stage. And my dad had sort of very ornate handwriting. So the band leader says, well, our next contestant is Joni Walmsley, right?
Joni.
Because he knew it was Johnny, but the band leader couldn't read it. So I said, it's Johnny! So anyway, I went up, and it's funny, you learn over the years. But I got up on stage with this band, and a good band, and the song that I had prepared was "And I Love Her," the Beatles song.
Yeah. Yes.
And I launched into this as an instrumental, right? And they could not follow it. Because it's not a really straightforward song. It has,
It's got some expensive chords in it. Yes, right.
Yeah, that's it. Expensive chords. So anyway, they kind of stumbled along with me, and I was 9. I soldiered through it, and I played it the way I had practiced it, and it was what it was. And sadly, I didn't get on Cal's Corral.
Well, it was a good experience for you.
And I love that connection.
It was. It was.
Well, I'm sure everyone was proud of you, Joni. But listen,
Joni.
hey, well, we're glad that you had some auditions that paid off for you, and we would be remiss if we did not mention that the Waltons. I mean, what an endearing and just enduring and endearing part of American culture that you got to be a part of. What a wonderful experience that was. Now, the beautiful thing is that do all of the Walton kids, do all of you guys still keep in touch with each other?
We do, actually. Yeah, it's quite
awesome.
Remarkable because normally the way it goes when the show is over, when the series finishes, the actors go their separate ways, and most of the time, they don't see each other again. Unless they, happen to meet at an audition or they get cast in something else where they work together again. Our relationships that have lasted over 50 years are the exception to the rule.
Yeah.
That's
and
great.
it was interesting because our first project together was The Homecoming, which was a Christmas special in 1971. And I really felt like from day one, we all clicked. Have you ever had that feeling where you meet someone or a group of people and you think, gosh, I feel like I've known them forever.
Yes.
Right? Just
beautiful.
Immediately comfortable. And that's how it was. And we were really kind of each other's best friends all through those years. Yeah. And we would spend time together on the weekends. At one point, we had a Waltons softball team. And we would go
that's great.
And we would go to concerts together. I can't tell you all the great acts we saw. I mean, we went to see the Allman Brothers. We went to see Elton John. We went to see, who else? Jethro Tull. All the big 70s acts. We would go together, and we just really enjoyed each other's company. And it's interesting looking back because I think one of the reasons that the relationships have stayed so strong is because, and I've heard, I think members of the Beatles, I don't know who it was, said this, nobody else knows what it was like. And that's it.
There you go.
We had this shared experience that no one else knows exactly, what went on and how it was, and
Yes.
it was good. I mean,
Yes.
99% of the time, it was
Yes.
great. You
Oh.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
But you
it
you
is
experienced the highs and the lows together, right? I mean, the trenches
yes,
and the highlights. Yeah.
yes, and through the years, we've we've been through marriages together and divorces together and deaths,
Hmm.
friends and family
Hmm. Yeah.
passing,
Hmm.
and
Mm.
the stuff that really does bring people together.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Eric
Yes.
Scott said a great thing to me once. I mean, he was making a joke because I love his family. I know them all.
Hmm.
Grew up with his family as well. But he said once, "Oh, can't wait to see you guys. It's great to get together with family without the dysfunction."
Nice.
There you go. Nice, nice. Well, that's wonderful that you guys are still connected like that, and I know that there are some things in the works coming up in our beautiful state. Coming up pretty soon for a Waltons sort of, I'm not sure exactly what it's called, John, but a Waltons reunion or event of some kind in the Smoky Mountains, I know is going to be happening
Right.
at some
I
point,
believe it's
right?
called Weekend in the Smokies. Walton's
Hmm.
Weekend in the Smokies,
Love
which
that.
is going to be on the 15th and 16th of May.
Yeah. Now,
So I believe
will everyone be there? All the kids?
just just about, yeah, all the kids,
Okay.
and some others. I couldn't tell you exactly who else is going. I think David Doremus, who played GW, he
Hmm.
previously been on Nanny and the Professor,
Yeah. Yeah.
a role I auditioned for, by the way.
Mm.
Really?
Yeah,
Now you
see, things
appeared on
work
the
out.
Did you appear on that show too, though, at some
I
point?
did actually. I did
Yeah.
actually. After I think it had been on a year or so, I had a tiny little guest part where I
Yeah.
did a little scene with the old character actor Edward Everett Horton. I don't know if you
Hmm.
remember him.
I'd know his face, I'm sure, but yeah.
I'd have to Google him.
Yes.
Mhm.
But anyway, you'd recognize his face and certainly his voice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, I had a scene where I was holding a duck.
Well, somebody's got to do it.
How do you forget that?
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, and a lot of people think, well, these kids and John, they started their careers on the Waltons, which was just an iconic television show. But you had already been doing some guest spots on some great
Yes.
TV shows, right? Before that.
I started I started in music, and my first TV appearances were on an amateur show on KCOP Channel 13 in
Hmm.
LA, and it was a
Hmm.
Saturday morning kids variety show. And I did that 3 times and got an agent as a result,
Hmm.
Nice.
and then started auditioning for television shows as an actor.
Yeah.
And I knew absolutely nothing at all about acting. I'd always been enamored of television and enjoyed to watch it and was very interested. But I didn't. I started my first job. I did not have a clue. Didn't have a clue.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And I had it.
Yeah.
My first TV gig was a role playing an English boy
Hmm.
on because I don't know if I mentioned that I am from England.
Yeah. Yeah. That wasn't a stretch. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, right, right. So that's why I got the role. I was doing a scene with Vic Morrow, who played the
Yes.
sergeant, and thankfully, I didn't. What he said went over my head because it was my first scene and my first show, and I made a few mistakes. I misinterpreted the director's direction,
Hmm.
Hmm.
and I blew a few takes, right? And we were waiting outside the door for our entrance, and it was, if people don't know, when there's a scene going on, right, and you're meant to enter from outside a door, because there's dialogue going on, they'll have a light bulb outside the door, and
Right.
someone will press the bulb when it's time for you to open the door and come in. So Vic Morrow and I were standing after I'd blown several takes. We're standing outside the door, waiting for the light bulb to come on, and he said,
Hmm.
"Monsieur father a director, producer? I said, no. He said, is your brother a writer, casting director? I said, no. He said, how'd you get this part?
Oh no!
And I said, as I say, thank goodness, I had no idea that he was kind of being mean. I
Right.
said, well, I guess they just liked me.
Good for
I
you.
look
I
back
love
years
that.
later and I go, oh man, that wasn't nice. But there you
Patronizing you. Yeah.
I kept, stumbling along, and finally, the greatest acting lessons that I ever had were when we started the Waltons, and I was working every single day with
Right.
Richard Thomas and Ralph
Yes.
Waite, Michael
Yes.
Leonard, and Will Geer, Ellen Corby. I mean, they were the best of the best.
Yeah, and you were
Really.
sitting at their feet, literally learning from them every
I
day.
was
Yeah.
sitting there, and I remember watching an episode once and thinking, "Oh gosh, I I imitated Richard Thomas there. That was something John Boy would have done." And I thought, "Well, that's all right, isn't it?
Your
We're
brothers.
meant to be brothers. So if we do something similar, if I do something that is like Ralph Waite or like Richard Thomas, that's okay
Yes.
because it just makes it seem like we're related."
Absolutely.
So yeah. So anyway,
Great experience. Yes.
Yes.
Indeed, indeed. Well, speaking of great experiences, we want to. I hate to wrap this up because
I know we could sit here.
We could sit here and chat with you a long
forever.
time. But we want to encourage our listeners. Definitely get tickets to Franklin Theater and see Jon Walmsley on May the 22nd. And then the very next night, he's going to be appearing at the Grand Ole Opry, and you can get tickets to that as well. And we'll be filling you in on a little bit more information about that as it gets closer as well. But we wanted to chat with you first, John, and just kind of prime the pump a little bit and let people know what's coming.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that.
Yes.
I really hope. I mean, the Opry has no trouble selling tickets, but I really hope people will come to the Franklin Theater because it's.
Absolutely.
I mean, the Opry. It's a guest appearance, 2 songs. The show at the Franklin will be a full concert.
Yeah.
90 minutes with an intermission, so people will hopefully buy some drinks and popcorn.
Yes.
But lots of good rock and music. So I hope people will come out. I'm looking
Yes.
It'll
forward
be
to
a
it.
great show.
Looking
Yes.
forward to it. It's going to be fabulous. Thank you, John, for visiting with us on Swanky Southern Nights. We appreciate you and your work so
Yes,
much.
thank you.
Thank you, guys. Cheers.